Hello you beautiful people, welcome to my bike review of the Intense Primer 29er Expert. This is a carbon bike that I bought in 2020 and I've been riding this thing for a couple of years and I've got a great review to give you of a long-term test. This thing is an incredibly versatile build and I absolutely love this thing, so I really hope you guys stick around. I've got a lot of good things to say about it. I've been riding it all over the place. I've taken this thing to Whistler. I've taken this thing to the Horseshoe Mountain Bike Park all over Southern Ontario. I even went to Virginia with it. So with that, let's get to the review and I'll tell you what I've got to say about it. Just a quick word about me. My name is Sunny. I also go by Mangy Squirrel. And if you've been to my channel before, you may have seen a review I did for the Ghost Kato FS5. That bike I also rode all over the place, all over Southern Ontario. But unfortunately, I ran into some bad luck with it. I was going over a local trail called Rock Garden over at Kelso Conservation Area. Wasn't doing anything particularly gnarly, just going over a regular trail. And where did the frame snap on me? Right behind a weld, of course. There it was. I felt some rubbing on the tire. And I looked down and sure enough, it was snapped. There was nothing I could do. Now, this was back in 2020, and I looked all over the world for this, but of course, COVID was in full swing with supply chain problems and low stock all over the place, so I couldn't find a bike anywhere. But luckily, I found one bike, and it was this bike right here out in Vancouver at Mountain Equipment Co-op, and I was able to have it shipped all the way from Vancouver out to me like within a week. I had promised my wife, listen, I'm not going to spend a lot of money on this, but we all know that's a big lie because these bikes are high-end, they are expensive, and this one's a carbon bike, and boy, am I happy with it. So for the review, I thought I'd shine up the bike for you, get it all nice and clean so I can display it in all its glory. Plus, it's a pretty sexy bike. There she is. Isn't that great? Thing of beauty she is. You know, I really have to say I love the design aesthetic of this bike. When you look at it, it just sits beautifully, and I really appreciate the attention to detail that Intense has built into this bike. Having said that, a lot of the bikes these days are like that. Maybe it's just where things are with technology. Maybe with the internal cable routing has sort of become a standard thing. But when you've had bikes that didn't have that, I'll tell you what, you really appreciate that kind of thing. And you know what? It looks pretty good on my car too. So let's get going with the review. Now, the thing I really liked about getting this high-end bike, it's aside from it being so awesome, is that you get this gearbox that comes with it. It has all your manuals, of course, but in the manuals you really got to pay attention to because on a carbon frame, you want to know what the torque settings are. You don't want to crack this frame, and you can't just reef on it with your Allen key, etc. You will really damage it. So you've got your torque settings there. You've got a torque wrench that they give you. You've got a shock pump. You've got valves for the tubeless ready tires. You've even got some Intense stickers. It's a little bit of swag thrown in there and some carbon prep as well to keep the carbon parts from slipping once you've tightened them. So that's an important thing to use as well because you can't tighten it so much, it might slip if you don't have some kind of friction creating surface between the parts. Now, I think it was the versatility of this bike that really sold it for me. The bike comes with this little flip chip that's right over here, and it's in the low setting when I bought it, but if you want to go to a bike park, you want to go to Whistler, or you want to do some drops and jumps, you can put it to the lower setting to change the geometry and give it a more of a downhill kind of a setting. And talking about a downhill configuration, we have an Intense Recon dropper post, and it goes up and down buttery smooth with one lever on the left-hand side. The handlebars on this bike are absolutely gorgeous. They are the Intense Recon once again. They're a little bit more wide than I was used to. They are 780 millimeters, but very ergonomically designed, and I just absolutely love riding at this width now. In the gearbox that I mentioned earlier, it came with Intense lock-on grips, but I have swapped those out for these ODI grips that are nice and cushy that I absolutely love. And of course, from there, you've got great access to your Shimano brake lever and your SRAM shifters as well, which is a little bit different from the Shimano system that I'm used to, but I would never go back because I find this system much easier. Now, this bike came with a 32 teeth 1-by system from SRAM, the NX Eagle system that I absolutely love. It is much simpler up in the cockpit with shifting. The shifting is nice and snappy, and even on steep ascents and steep descents for that matter, you want quick shifting, and this is exactly what this delivers. with the kind of riding that you're going to be doing, and that certainly I do, you need stop and a dime performance, and this is what the Shimano M500 discs do. They are 4-piston brakes, and they are solid. They stop me dead anytime. You do have to learn to feather the brakes, of course, though. Now, the suspension on this bike is spec'd very well for what it's intended for. It's not as plush as the lower models, but it is intended for a little bit more beefy absorption. So for like step downs and drops of like 5-6 feet, you've got the Fox 34 at the front with 150 millimeters of travel, 140 millimeters of travel with the DPX2 on the rear. And with the 3 settings up at the front and 3 settings at the back, this is great for trail conditions. You can lock them out for climbing, or you can put them into a more plush setting for downhilling or for enduro, etc. I've done some drops with this bike, and it has not bottomed out on me, but you do have to put the settings in the right place. My primer came equipped with the Maxxis High Roller tube at the front, which is really great for enduro riding, trail riding, a little bit of downhill as well. Great stopping power. Really nice and knobbly, good for cornering and off-camber riding, that kind of thing as well. And at the back, it came equipped with the Aggressor at 2.3 width. Oh, I forgot to mention the front was 2.5, which I find is kind of nice because at the back with a 2.3, it's not as knobbly, less rolling resistance, and it makes it a little bit looser at the back, which is kind of the way I like it. So I find the tire balance very well done on this bike. Like most bikes these days, my primer did not come with pedals, as pedal choice is a very personal choice. So I myself, because I'm a little bit older, I clip in and I go with the Shimano M540 pedals that work for me. The primer came equipped with some really good flat guarding, I'm happy to say, as you can see on the down tube here, and then just right underneath the bottom sprocket rather, and as well as on the right chainstay, just to protect against chain slap and that kind of thing. I wanted to go for a little bit more than that though, so I went with this all mountain style honeycomb film that I put some additional stuff on the down tube, because rocks do tend to come flying up through the mud and that kind of thing too. And I put some on the rear triangle as well, because whenever you put your bike down, it has a tendency to hit little bits of rock and all that kind of thing. Maybe it doesn't look that great, but I'd rather protect my carbon. Carbon doesn't like oblique hits and pressure points, coming in sideways, that kind of thing. It's not like the old carbon, but it definitely happens. I do have to say, in the first 6 months of owning this Intense, I basically went over the handlebars, and using my old reflexes, I just let the bike go, and it was kind of dumb of me. I, Hulk smashed the rear triangle, and that's the area of the mountain bike that tends to get the most abuse. Luckily, I called Intense customer service, which was excellent, and I had to buy it, of course, because it's not warrantyable. And they had to break down another bike in order to get me this rear triangle. And they've been doing that a lot lately. So I don't know why they don't just do, an aluminum alloy rear triangle, even if it adds a little bit of weight, just for that greater durability. But you know what? That's just my opinion. I'm sure this full carbon bike works for a lot of people. I should say, though, that the Intense box of swag there that came with the bike did come with some little pieces of acrylic film that you can put on your bike for additional protection. And even though the cable routing on this bike is fantastic, the guys at the bike shop for me used some black electrical tape and tied up the cables up at the front here to make the internal cable routing even better. And I love the way the cables and wires are routed through the down tube, underneath, and right into the chainstays, and makes for a really tidy setup again. Less open areas to grab on branches and leaves and twigs on the ground and all that kind of thing. And here it is again, an upside down bike here. Cables routed right through the bottom chainstay, right to your derailleur. And the last thing, I even like the badge at the end, at the head tube on the bike, Intense Racing, displaying their heritage as always. And I love this bike, guys. Thank you so much for it. Thanks for taking part in this review. And that's going to be it for me, guys. I really appreciate you stopping by to have a look at this review and stepping through it. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you're interested. I'll be putting up some more videos as the months go by of some of my escapades, and I hope to see you around soon. Ciao for now.